Shalom. All praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. May Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai's peace be bestowed unto your hopefully elect. And may brother I will call from Great Millstone, Orlando. And to our joy, the forecast for Babylon is not looking good whatsoever. As of course, this is our good news. Lord willing, Yahweh Shemel Shah does not take his foot off of the gas pedal, because there's a lot going on. As we see, been reporting on, TSA agents replacing these ICE agents replacing these TSA agents due to the shortages in staffing. People don't want to go to work, not getting paid for work, or they're not getting paid, which is going to in turn cause more confusion, civil unrest. Because you best believe them agents, man, they're going to be harassing people. We are on the verge of the worst energy crisis, as we see what's going on in Cuba right now, as well as other nations dealing with these blackouts. People are fighting for water, as we're going to see here in the States soon. Food rationings, gas rationings. Again, as we are on this verge of the worst energy crisis. And on top of that, a looming economic depression that's going to far outdo 2008, the Weimar Republic, just anything we haven't seen before in Babylon's history and just in general. And as we're seeing the groundwork being laid, as I'm going to play this video here by Lena Petrova, done plenty of videos off of her videos in the past. One of these economists that goes into just what's going on. Grab this real quick in Luke, because while mainly so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians are still asleep, the snare is being set up as we speak, right in front of our faces, right under our noses. Esau, he's setting the trap up. I'm gonna go to this to Luke 19. Now, of course, this is going into the siege of Jerusalem, as most would say, 70 AD, when this event took place for several years. One thing led to another. Esau, ultimately, it led to Esau coming down with that great wrath. But before that took place, Yahushua warned Jake of what was going to happen. In Luke 19, in Luke 19 and 42, saying that thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which belonged unto thy peace, but now they are hid from thine eyes. And like it says in Isaiah, how long? Just grab that real quick. in Isaiah. Isaiah 6 and 8. Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, here I am, send me. And he said, go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, and see ye indeed, and perceive not. And that's why at the Wadi Yahweh Bashmal Shah, we've been given an eye salve to see amidst all the distractions and enchantments and everything that's going on. Hey, like the scriptures talk about, and this is all a part of why Esau, he has to do something. He has to make moves. He has to come down with that great wrath in this time. Because, hey, the prophets are on his ass. Like the prophecy states, Esau came out first, and Jacob held onto his heel, right? Hey, the prophets are on Esau's ass, not giving his devil no rest, calling him out, just prophesying against him. Like the scriptures say, they heard the report, and it's a dreadful report. So he has to do something, and he has to do something dramatic, and he has to do it quick. So, reading on verse 10, make the heart of this people fat and make their ears heavy. And shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their heart and convert and be healed. Then said I, Lord, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate. So Jacob is going to be stuck in this state of slumber until prophecy plays out. And these things come to pass. Eventually Jacob will get it in the kingdom. But nevertheless, the word has gone out, is going out. Yahweh Bashim Shah's mercy is a limited time. Going back to this Luke 19 and 43. For the day shall come upon thee, that thine enemy shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side. So, again, there's a lot of things going on. And Esau, he's in closing. Babylon is becoming more of a militarized province, and it's going to get more militarized. With the talks of draft on the table, a military draft on the table, which a lot of Jakes are going to get sent out to this war, man. All these war fronts. Esau is opening up. Don't sleep on China. They're conducting all type of war drills around Taiwan. They're just waiting on the moment to strike, which is going to open up another forefront. Trump is talking about going into Cuba. Hey, Esau is cashing his check he's writing a check that his ass can't cash. So you best believe that's going to lead way. That's going to open the door for Babylon, foreign troops on American soil. As the food supply is getting cut off more and more. As the scriptures say, Yahweh Bashim Shai, he's taking away the staff and stay of bread. So, again, man, on top of all that, man, just getting back to the point of this video, man, this looming debt bubble that's getting ready to pop, which is going to cause, again, this economic crash. As the scriptures say, they're crashing from the hills. pretty soon there's going to be a new way of buying and selling, as the prophecy states, which is, again, is good news for us, because this is going to further usher in Yahushua's deliverance. And as Apostle Tahar says, it could be a matter of weeks, months. I'm gonna grab this real quick. I'm gonna play this video. And that word in Luke 19:43, that word trench, it goes into the same word, Greek word, that you read about in Revelation 13 for the word mark. It goes into the same root word, that karax, that palisade, that enclosing in. Because again, the groundwork is being laid for everyone to ultimately take that sea hip. And as the pressure is building, all these, the Yahweh Shema Shah, he's moving everything into place, making power moves. The main prophecy we're on the lookout for is that MOTB. So it's like when this thing spills over, everything will already be in place. When the pipes finally burst from all this pressure, everything will already be in place for that MOTB. Because prophecy is knocking, man. World War III, civil unrest. We are here. So Slakia. I forgot what I was going to grab. So without further ado, I'm going to play this video. Fair use, copyright disclaimer. I don't own the copyrights. All right. This is not for monetary gain. This is just for informational purposes.
These videos. Now, there is a part of the United States financial system that most people rarely even hear about, yet it has quietly grown into a massive force behind the economy. It is called private credit. I uploaded several videos about this, and things have gotten worse. For many years, it actually helped businesses expand and gave investors strong returns, but now that same market is showing signs of strain, of considerable strain, and large U.S. lenders, banks, including banks, are beginning to question whether it could become a source of broader financial instability. Private credit refers to loans that are made outside of traditional banks. Instead of borrowing from a bank, companies, often mid-sized and riskier firms, turn to private investment funds for financing. That's how it works. Major firms like Blackstone and Apollo Global Management have become key players in this space. Over the past decade, the market has actually expanded rapidly, especially after stricter regulations made it very difficult for banks to lend following the 2008 financial crisis.
And, I touched on this not too long ago, but you go into the Frank-Dodd Act. So instead of these major banks, as she's going into the private credit, which is going to cause this debt bubble to pop.
By recent estimates, private credit has grown into a $1 trillion industry. So if it collapses, you can imagine that it is going to impact the U.S. economy.
If the private credit market goes through, as UBS said, a 15% default rate, the idea that the public high yield market, the public equity market, all these public markets would be completely fine while the entire private debt market melts, the likelihood of that is extremely, extremely low. And it's been interesting to see how the public markets will say that this will have a very big problem, but everything else will be fine.
Do you reject that type of assessment by Matt Mish over at UBS?
Listen, I think if you read the piece, it was a little bit taken out of context. I think that was kind of his severe bear case, and there's some probability that can happen. And again, anybody can go out and say that the tail looks like this, and it could. But to say that it will only happen there and that we shouldn't be worried about all these other markets when in fact we're senior debt on all these other markets, Again, not really logic behind that, but for whatever reason, it's definitely the story of the day.
According to an article recently published by Reuters, private credit defaults have hit an all-time high, which is a clear sign of growing stress among borrowers. According to Fitch Ratings, the default rate rose to 9.2%, up from 8.1% in 2024, making it the highest level since the agency began tracking the sector. The data comes from a pool of over 300 companies, so we're not just talking about several companies here, and within that pool of 300 companies, a dozen of defaults were actually recorded across multiple borrowers. Most of these defaults occurred among smaller middle market companies, particularly those with relatively low earnings and higher debt burdens. A key reason for the increase is the impact of high interest rates. Many private credit loans are actually structured with floating rates that are tied to benchmark rates, meaning that borrowing costs have risen sharply over the past few years. Because many companies did not hedge against rising rates, their cash flow has been squeezed, which makes it very difficult to service debt. What's even worse is that defaults are spread across sectors rather than concentrated in one specific area, although some industries like software, for example, remain under a considerable amount of pressure even if they did not officially register defaults in Fitch's data. So this private credit unraveling, if you will, is happening across all sectors, not just one or two, and this is quickly becoming a systemic risk. Private credit differs from traditional banking in many important ways, but banks are heavily regulated and they are required to disclose details about their financial information on a quarterly and annual basis, but private credit funds operate with far less transparency, with far less oversight, and this makes it difficult for investors and for regulators as well to fully assess the level of risk. Additionally, these loans are often illiquid, meaning that they cannot be easily sold on the market if investors want to withdraw their money. Remember, recently private funds have been restricting withdrawals, and I have a separate video on that. So in times of stress, that lack of liquidity can become a serious vulnerability, which we see that's precisely what's happening right now.
So with that being said, and they don't really report on things like this on the mainstream media, because what this could lead to is bank runs, which in turn, banks would collapse, as we've seen in the past. People don't really understand. When you go into fractional reserve banking, right? Because with that, again, people won't be able to access the money. And again, as I've spoke on several times, going to these bail-ins, right? And going after people's pensions, 401ks, and things of that nature. This is why they don't, again, you don't really hear about this on the mainstream media for the most part, because this will cause bank runs overnight.
Now, the risks are not limited to niche investors, by the way. Large institutions, including pension funds, insurance companies, and university endowments, have poured money into private credit in search of higher returns. And if the market weakens, which it is now weakening, as you know, these institutions could face losses, potentially affecting retirees, policyholders, and broader financial stability. Because private credit is also closely tied to private equity, problems in one area could quickly spill over into another area. The central concern today is whether stress in private credit could spread to wider economy. While most experts do not expect a crisis on the scale of 2008 at this time, the risks are still very significant. A rise in defaults could lead lenders to pull back, making it very difficult for businesses to access financing. And that could slow investment, it could reduce hiring, and weigh on economic growth.
So, in turn, that's why I mentioned that this, on top of this energy crisis that we're dealing with, that we're facing right now, from the Strait of Hormuz, all the tension in the so-called Middle East, this in turn would cause prices, because it always goes back on the consumer, you and me. It always goes back on us. So with that being said, just expect things to get more expensive. Hey, Yahweh Shemal Shai is getting ready to turn up. It's getting ready to turn up out here. Because you can only inflate this balloon so much, man. Eventually, the balloon can only hold in so much air. Eventually, it's going to pop. So one day, man, one day, when this thing really spills over, it's going to be mass casualties. And I'm talking about mass deletions, self-deletions. As the Apostle Kabar always says, man, just being a visionary. And this is something that I can see. Just mass deletions. People just offer themselves. You know, you wake up one day, you can't access your money. All those thousands and hundreds of thousands overnight. You know, you wake up to zero in your bank account. It's going to make these people go batshit crazy.
Organizations like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have already warned that private credit is an area worth watching very, very closely. So we know that they're probably underestimating and they don't want to cause panic. So if the IMF says, well, this is something you need to watch, then clearly this is a big red flag to be on the lookout for. What makes this current situation particularly fragile is the broader economic environment, of course. Interest rates remain elevated, growth is very uncertain, and a large amount of debt that was taken on during the low rate era is now coming due. So that combination creates a real-time stress test for both borrowers and lenders, and it exposes weaknesses that were easily ignored when money was cheap and the economy was far more stable than it is now. Private credit has been one of the fastest growing parts of the financial system. It thrived in the background during years of easy money, and right now, as conditions tighten, its vulnerabilities are becoming more visible. Whether it remains a stable source of financing, which is very unlikely, or turns into a point of financial strain, which is what I think we will see, that will depend on how well the market adapts to the new environment. The outcome may not trigger a dramatic crisis at this time, but it could play a crucial role in shaping the next phase of the U.S. economy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you...
And, you know, people don't want to admit the fact, or these people, they don't want to admit the fact that, hey, we are heading into, like I mentioned, man, it's going to far this next depression, because they always want to make it pretty, butter it up, so they don't, they want to be optimistic, but hey, like the scriptures talk about, you're putting your trust in the shadow of Egypt, which a shadow doesn't have any substance. So, you know, they want to remain optimistic, but like I mentioned, this next crash is going to far outdo 2008, the Weimar Republic. You know, all these crashes over time combined is going to make this next crash look like a walk in the park. You know, all the crashes before combined is going to make this next crash look like a walk in the park. So that's how bad it's going to get, man. And of course, we know it's necessary for them to usher in this new system. They have to crash this old one. So it's an orchestrated demolition, a controlled demolition. All right. But 2 Esdras 5 and 8, there shall be a confusion also in many places, and the fire shall be oft sent out again, and the wild beasts shall change their places, and menstruous women shall bring forth monsters. So all the tall tale signs are there. All right. You talk about the next phase of America, the next phase of Babylon. You know, what comes to mind is Revelation 18. which is why I would say the only tears that brothers are going to be crying is tears of joy, pursuing to Revelation 18. Because the next phase for America is total desolation. America is being isolated as we speak to be destroyed. And from there, it's only desolation. So it's just a matter of holding on, strap again. As we've been told to hold fast what we have, that no man take our crown. Because again, this shit is getting ready to spill over 144 times over. You know, America has a tab that it can't pay. So what do you think is next? What do you think is next, man? America is about to become a spoil. It's about to become a booties. Like it says in Isaiah 47, come sit in the dust. Because when these judgments come in this perfection here in the Babylon, it's going to hit these people like a shit ton of bricks. So they're talking about $200 a barrel come this summer, by the summer, right? And you know, because we don't feel the effects as of yet, again, it's a thing of gradualism. It's a process. So, again, soon, man. And I've been keeping a damn short eye on these gas prices. Damn sure keeping an eye on these gas prices, man. And just everything in general. Because, hey, this place is on its way out. There's a particular halal spot me and brothers like to go to. We've been going there for a while. And they, you know, for the most part, man, they've been good. It's been a good spot. But as of recently, and this is just a small inkling of things to come. Because as of recently, man, the last few times I've been there, I'm just kind of not dealing with the place anymore because, I mean, you could tell that they're feeling the effects. The quality of the food is trash. You know, they always got these deals going on. And just in general, you know, whenever you see these places, man, with these deals, buy one, get one free, or they've got these major sales going on, it's because, just speaking as a man, they feel the squeeze and they got to capitalize however they can before they go down. So, like I said, just a small inkling of what's to come. Out with the old, in with the new. But this shit is getting ready to spill over. As I've been saying 144 times over, this shit's getting ready to spill over, man. And we love to see it. Can't wait to see the look on the faces of these people. But Lord willing, this is edifying. All praises to Yahweh, Shema Shai. Shalom to you. Hopefully, luck.